sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Wednesday, September the 13th, the 10 a.m. agenda meeting. I'd like to get Mr. Scott to say the pledge and Mr. Kirk to say the prayer. Please stand.
Recite the Lord's Prayer. O Son, for us we believe. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. All right, we'll go to number 3, Christian Delahousie, Capital Area Finance Authority. Christian here?
Yes.
Yeah, you can come up right up here.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm with Capital Area Finance Authority. We're in Baton Rouge, and our footprint is EBR and then the 8 surrounding parishes. But we have gone outside of that footprint and through cooperative endeavor agreements, gone out into the other parishes. I think we're in 62 now. We have a cooperative endeavor agreement with Calcasieu Parish Finance Authority. The way it works is if a parish has a finance authority, we go through them to get the cooperative endeavor agreement signed. And for my time, the cooperative endeavor agreement was signed with Calcasieu Parish Authority and then the parishes surrounding it, so Allen, Beauregard, Cameron, Jefferson Davis. We are going to be issuing a bond. We do down payment assistance programs, so we help first-time home buyers with down payment assistance and closing costs. Because of the market right now and the volatility and the high rates, our programs really aren't producing. So we're going to be issuing a bond, and because of that, we have to go in front of the governmental body of that parish to get a resolution signed. And so I'm here to ask if we could continue our program and the bonds in Cameron Parish. And I think there was a resolution that was.
Yes, it's agenda item 19.
Okay.
Have any questions?
Anybody got any questions?
There will be a public hearing on September 18th, after which time we can have the resolution executed.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The co-op, Kevin Savoy. Mr. Bradley Pousson.
Good morning. We're here this morning to sort of give you an update on our annual report. I think everyone's got one in their packet. One of the biggest changes from this report that you'll see here in front of you is we do not have Brittany Zombrecker working with us any longer. She gave us a notice, transferred out, took another job, which we really hated. She's still with the Ag Center, but she's in Opelousas now, closer to where her husband was working. So logistically, it was just a good move for her. We hated it because she was well established in the community, in all the schools in the 4-H program, and had been here 9.5 years. We hated to see her go, but we understand it. So right away, we advertised for that job, and as a testament to the strength of our programs and our community, we had 10 applicants. Bradley and I both serve on hiring committees across the state and for statewide positions and parish positions, and a lot of times we have to advertise 2 and 3 times to get enough applicants to interview. And we did this one round and had 10 applicants. So I think it speaks to the strength of our program and the support that we had from local government and our communities and the school system. So we have advertised, we've interviewed, and we've made an offer, and we're kind of working through the process right now of getting this, an applicant signed on and going through the onboarding process. So hopefully by October 1, we'll have an announcement, and we'll announce a new employee, and we're going to get started early on in the school year with a new 4-H agent for the parish. Bradley and I are still there, and Angela Connor is still there as our administrator. So we're gonna just hit a few highlights of what we've been working on for the past year. I see where you got an agenda item at your voting meeting later this afternoon for a resolution requesting assistance with the shrimp issue. We've got severely depressed prices in the shrimp industry. If you go back and look in the landing statistics and the economics of it, and you equalize the price valuations to 1980, right now they're getting 70% less than they got in 1980, which is really a shame. And it's all because of imports. In 2022, we had 1.8 billion pounds of shrimp imported into this country. In Louisiana, we catch between 85 and 100 million annually. So we only have a small fraction of what's eaten in this country produced here. And there are tariffs collected on those imports, but the money is not getting back to the producer level where the real damage is being done. Processors and retailers can make up the difference, because all they need to do is grab onto some of these imported shrimp and put them in the marketplace, and their business just keeps rolling. But for the local shrimpers where the damage is being done, they're in a really bad way. This industry is in collapse in the United States. So I encourage you to move forward with that resolution. It's going to create a groundswell from all the coastal parishes and all the coastal states in the southeastern United States. We can't do anything about it. It's got to come from the federal level. They've either got to try to limit these imports or collect these tariffs and get that money back to these producers, or those large-scale producers are going to go away. Smaller guys with smaller boats like our local fishermen have, they can make it for a while by retailing, and that's what they're doing now. They've got to pick off those bigger shrimp and retail those directly and make a little more money. But they're really struggling right now.
Kevin, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Got a question, or?
No, go ahead.
We did bring it up last month, because we did have a local fisherman that we had met with, and he came, I think, our board meeting, if I remember right. There's another parish that is trying to ban imports from imported shrimp and maybe fish too from
St. Bernard.
Is it St. Bernard?
Yeah.
So they have a resolution they're supposed to be coming up with and try to, if we could do, Cameron could do the same thing, try to,
Yeah, I think there's some legal questions about that. But anyway, that's beyond my pay scale.
Lurleen, all our local people here all the time, and it's just,
Yeah, they're struggling.
yeah.
I mean, it's as bad as I've seen it. I've been here 32 years. And it's not just here, it's Gulf-wide and nationwide. They're in a really bad way. The other issue that we're dealing with currently is this severe drought we're in. We monitor salinities quite a bit with folks trying to pump water for whatever they're doing, duck hunting, irrigating, for cattle, rice, crawfish, and all pumping has stopped for the most part right now, even all the way up into the Mermentau Basin. We've got salinities creeping up in Lacassine Bayou. At Calcasieu locks and catfish locks, the water on the outside is 2 feet higher than in the intercoastal. The catfish locks has changed their operations a little bit. They're opening on the top of every hour only. So if a ship is, a tow is coming through there, they're gonna have to wait until the top of the hour so that they only open once in that hour, because when they open, the water's just flowing through this 2 foot head. And salinities have crept down. The intercoastal is at 21 parts per thousand at Gibstown Bridge last week. 35 parts per thousand is open ocean seawater. So we're 2/3 of the way there. There's no rain in sight, really. We got a little bit of rain this afternoon, but for the most part, this is gonna be a long-term issue we're gonna have to deal with. And it's gonna affect everybody, not just farmers and a few crawfish producers. It's gonna be with us for a while. It's gonna affect crawfish producers next year. This extended drought, as crawfish go into the ground, they live in a burrow with some moisture in it, and they'll go down as deep as they have to go to the water table. but the water table has gotten so low, they're way down there. Hurdles collapse on them. So that's gonna be another issue we're gonna deal with next spring. So I'm gonna let Bradley talk a little bit about his programs, unless someone's got some other questions.
I do have one, on all your applicants, local people or Cameron Parish residents?
We had some, and we had some from Colorado Springs. We had people from all over the place.
Colorado Springs.
Yeah, and we do get applicants now online. So if someone's qualified, I don't know how these online search companies work, but if someone has an agriculture degree or a degree to qualify, they automatically got sent in. And some of those look pretty good, actually. They're people that worked in agriculture or did different things. We didn't interview those, but no, we had a lot of applicants, and we did have a lot of local people.
Good, thank you.
Real quick, just a quick update. I mean, I know about the drought. We are in a D4 drought, so producers can go to FSA USDA office and sign up for drought assistance. We do have quite a few people doing that as of now. I've been trying to work with a few, try to get all their applications and stuff sent in and make sure they are qualifying for their assistance. Kevin mentioned drought, with the salt water creeping in. It's not just here that it's starting to creep in. We're starting to see it in southern Calcasieu going up further that way as well. When you get a lot of those drainage canals that are actually watering cattle, I mean, cattle can only take so much salt in one sitting, so there we're starting to see some other issues, not just with pumping water, but also drinking water as it goes further up. Some wells have started collapsing. So we're running into it's getting to be a very mainstream issue, more than just agriculture side as we get further up. I also want to thank y'all for y'all support on letting us use the property for our shooting sports program. We've sent 20 kids to our regional competition last year, and we sent 10 of those to the state competition. So because of y'all's support with that, we're able to train these kids and get them really prepared for shooting and getting them to where they're shooting at a very high level. And we're reserve team at regionals for the past 2 years. So we're very much fortunate of that, and those kids are doing very well. We'll have a new agent on at the end of the month, so hopefully we'll bring him by the next meeting. He or she can be introduced, and so I hope we have a lot of big stuff planned this year. So if y'all have any questions or have any concerns about anything, be sure to contact us. We know the trees are dying right now. Oak trees are in bad condition. Fruit trees are still in bad condition as well from freeze last year. So it's just one bad thing after another. So ain't really much anybody can do about it, but pray for some rain.
Yeah.
I want to mention one other thing before we walk away. We've been working on this AOC grant, oyster culture grant in the lower Calcasieu area. A couple of grants. One went to the port, Cameron Port, and one went to producers here. We've got oysters hanging in cages for the first time in the last couple of weeks. So that's slowly moving along. We're going to continue to work with those producers as they progress into that business. We recently had an economic analysis done, and margins are pretty tight. So we're going to try to work with them and give them the best information they can get to be successful in that adventure. So, and again, thank y'all for all the support.
Thank you. All right.
All right, number 5 here, Butler Bourgeois, Gallagher Insurance, insurance renewal quotes on equipment, general liability, commercial auto, workman's comp, and VFIS.
Now we're talking about something better than draft.
Good morning. You've got this sheet in your packet. Last month we did meet and review the insurance program as we estimated it would come about for this renewal. If you look right in the center, we have a listing of general liability, professional liability, automobile, excess workers' compensation bond, and inland marine. And we do show what the premiums were for 22-23. and then the final premiums for 23-24. A couple of things to sort of talk through, because there were some questions last month. On the general liability, our budget expenditures were up about 13% year over year. And on the automobile, we did have 3 new units as opposed to last year. So those two things amounted to some fluctuation in the premium, but pretty much came through about where our estimate was last month. There was a question about our safety programs that we put into place last year. We did some driver's education. We did some equipment handling education. We started a motor vehicle record program just to verify motor vehicle records and take a look at that. Based on trend, our rate change was less than normal. We saved about $18,000 by getting credits from the safety programs that the police jury implemented. So while we're up a little bit, most of it is exposure. We did have savings of about $18,000 as a result of what was put in place last year. Okay, so that's it for the police jury operation. Down below that, we have the fire department program, and you'll see the premiums are listed as property, portable equipment, general liability, management liability, automobile liability, accident and sickness. And then we have a comparison of 22-23 and 23-24. All of the lines except for property pretty much came in actually a little bit less than expected, is what we showed you last year. What surprised us a bit on the property, and it's a pretty substantial change, is that the cost of reinsurance to insure our property has gone up, and that was a result of the overall claim for Hurricane Laura ended up increasing or finalizing right at about $7 million. Last year, their estimates were probably half that. So when they went to the reinsurance market insurance companies will buy reinsurance. And so on the coastal areas, when they go out to buy it, they take a look at the loss history. And so when they went this year, it had increased to the $7 million, which has been paid. And that part of that was, and that's part of the increase on the property. It
The
is.
packet that you had, the ones in the packet, it dropped again last night, around $4,900, so that's why you have the paper copy this morning. So there's a few of these that are still working through, but this is about where it's gonna be, and we signed, Friday for the new one, for the renewals. Anybody have any
Anybody got any questions?
We expecting this kind of increase to continue?
I think on the middle piece, the travelers piece, I think we're gonna be fairly consistent. I think on the fire department piece, we're hoping that the market starts to stabilize with increases in interest rates. Insurance companies are making more money on their money, and a lot of times that will stabilize rates. Not having if this hurricane season ends like it is today, then that is definitely gonna help. The wildfires do not help, because when you think of, our isolated area, we don't have a storm, but the reinsurance companies who reinsure our carriers are having to deal with wildfires and hurricanes and wind events in other areas. So depends on their profitability, they pass their costs down to our insurance carrier. So so far, it's been pretty good. I think we have 13 named storms out there. We've only been hit with one minor in Florida. So I think a lot of it depends on where the end of the year ends up for hurricane season.
And we just got a $3 million payout for our BFIS, which is the fire department stuff. So, I mean, that, when we start running the lost runs and we're looking at all this, they're looking at the money that we did receive, and then now we just got this payment. So they're taking that into account too. They're adding it into the 7 million. So, I mean, it affects us whenever we get, it's beneficial for us to get the money. They owe it to us, but it also takes a hit when we do the renewals.
That's 25% increase. I mean, if that's gonna continue, and that's what I'm hearing that the regular homeowner is gonna be seeing, we're gonna have to figure out some kind of way to help the people with. And we asked for the insurance commissioner to be here today, but, I don't think he can make it, maybe next month.
Right, matter of fact, we talked about that at the last meeting. That afternoon, his opponent dropped out. So he's trying to meet with all officials throughout the state. I think he's just trying to get himself organized so that he can do that. So he's trying to meet with everybody up and down the line,
I'm sure he
come up with a
can,
solution.
but about that.
Yeah, he is gonna be a busy man.
And also for the BFIS, we did add 4 stations back. We had taken stations out, off, and away, they were damaged or destroyed, so we just put 4 back into place this year, so that's also added to the mix.
Yes, so again, Katie, just to make sure that people hear this at home, we should have the insurance commissioner here next week.
The request was submitted, but I don't have confirmation.
I'm not sure if it'll be next meeting, but I know he definitely is making the rounds to talk to everyone.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Joe, if I may, I wanted to make sure this wasn't lost on the public and on you guys. Until we designated Wendy Harrington as our risk manager, and we changed insurance companies to Butler, this is the first time that we've ever had any sort of training, safety training, that was being submitted for credits to insurance. This is something we just started in the last 2 years. It's reduced our accidents. That coordination and that working relationship between Wendy and Butler has been very beneficial for the taxpayers, and they're being very good stewards with the taxpayer dollars. And I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that this is something new, and I hope they appreciate this new working relationship with our insurance representative.
How many vehicles have we added to our insurance in the last 6 months?
The last 6
For the
months,
fleet.
not hearing any.
4 in the last, 4 or 5 in the last 6 months, but we also have, equipment's in here too.
This is
So,
added vehicles in the parish, not replacements.
oh, no, just replacements. A replacement, we only had one
Replacements, we don't have any added vehicles in the
added vehicle,
over the
and
last year.
the other ones are just replacements. We sent some back, got new ones, we only have 1 added.
Any more questions? All right, we're gonna move to number 6 of the Lower Cameron Hospital Service District. An update, Ms. Stephanie Rodriguez, and I'll let you introduce your crew. I hope we get on the right track with everybody, and not the Facebook answers and the store answers. We get some correct updates from you from the horse's mouth.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. Yes, it's certainly a privilege to be here today, and we do have with us some of our board members of the Lower Cameron Hospital Service District, Vicki Keefe and Mary Canick, and I certainly want to acknowledge them. Our other board members are working today. And yes, a few months ago, I gave you a very detailed summary of what had taken place to date at the point that I was appointed to this board, and we accrued some new members very quickly on that board. So at that time, I was able to share that we had procured an architect to both design the replacement hospital for South Cameron Memorial Hospital, as well as to handle the renovations to the health unit to be used as a temporary primary care clinic. But today, I'm very pleased and very honored to be able to announce officially our partnership with Lake Charles Memorial Hospital as the new operator of both South Cameron Memorial Hospital as well as the primary care clinic, of which a temporary unit will be in place prior to the repairs to the health unit, and will be in that permanent structure until the hospital is completed. So at this time, it is my privilege to introduce to you the President and CEO of Lake Charles Memorial Hospital, and have him introduce his team, Mr. Devin Hyde.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, it is truly an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to appear before you today. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Devin Hyde. I serve as the President and CEO of Lake Charles Memorial Health System. With me today, I have Dr. Gerald Bryant, who serves as our Chief Nursing Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Don Johnson, who is the System Chief Financial Officer, and Jason Rashall, who is the System Chief Strategy Officer. We truly believe that this is a partnership and an investment in Cameron Parish. It has been too long that the citizens of this parish and residents have gone without dedicated healthcare services. And so we are honored and privileged to be selected as the partner, and we look forward to this and moving forward in rapid succession.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. And as I mentioned before, we had procured a joint venture architectural firm, and that is Huff Power Design and WHLC. And today we actually have a rendering of the new hospital. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Joshua Huff Power, the principal architect on the project.
Bring a couple of these boards up.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, members of the police jury, for having us involved with this great endeavor here in Cameron Parish. What you see is our first concepts of the hospital project as the replacement hospital. A lot of consideration has been taken into effect as far as the elevation and heights and ensuring that the structure will be able to withstand storms to come. I have with me Rick Lipscomb and Angel Terry from WHLC. They're part of our team. They have tremendous experience in our hospital design group, and we look forward to continuing this process and working with our new team members at Lake Charles Memorial and developing this project further. So we want to thank you all for that.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. And what I would like to certainly highlight is that this hospital is not only important to serve the residents of Lower Cameron Parish, but it's also very important for the employees who work here now, the huge number of workers that will be in and out of Lower Cameron Parish, and of course those people that we hope continue to come visit, to our tourists. So this hospital is intended to serve all of those groups of individuals, not just the residents. And I think more than anything, we're very pleased that we will, through Mr. Hyde's team's effort, have a mobile primary care unit here in the very near future that can begin to serve that purpose. I certainly want to thank our General Counsel, our District Attorney, Mr. Tom Barrett, who's been integral in getting much of the paperwork behind this properly arranged, as well as our police juror, Scott Trahan, who's been with us every step of the way. And Mr. Sonny McGee has also been very interested and very helpful because, of course, his new district will include this hospital. So thank you very much for having us. We are going to have a press conference following this meeting, and we'd love for you to meet some of our new partners. Thank you.
Stephanie,
Yes, sir.
we got a timeline on it?
The hospital timeline is it's a 2-year construction project. That'll get kind of lined out as it progresses into a very detailed timeline. And we're hopeful the mobile unit, as soon as a proper one can be acquired and we can get it on the ground. So it's the mobile unit's certainly a priority. Mr. Hyde's made it a priority, and I think we'll have that up and running. And it will be primary care, which is a step up from urgent care. So we will have a primary care clinic in our area soon.
So, Ms. Steph, how about how quick will the health unit?
That design's in progress as well. But the mobile unit will be there until we can move into, there's quite a bit of renovation in addition to repair for it to properly meet the standards, the construction standards.
One question, where will that be located? Will it be here at the clinic or will it be at the hospital?
No, it'll have to be out of the way of demo and lay down yard and all of that construction. So the safest place as of now will be here next to the clinic.
What's the difference between the hospital that's out there now and what's coming? Is it getting smaller? And obviously I'm not the medical expert to explain this, but to meet Department of Health and Hospitals requirement, it must be a 10-bed hospital. There is no opportunity to have a standalone rural emergency hospital in Louisiana. It has been approved at the federal level, but it also then has to be approved in every state. That has not been approved for our state. So it will be a minimum 10-bed hospital. And so I guess the biggest difference is that it's, for one thing, it's going to be elevated and it'll be brick and mortar throughout. So it should, as Mr. Huffpower just alluded, it should withstand storm damage to a greater degree than what we had. So construction-wise, it'll be significantly different. We hope to do new things. Ms. Armentor and I have discussed about some of those public health unit services still being available through a partnership with the health unit, but be available at the hospital site, so there doesn't have to be two different buildings to accommodate the same type of service. So we hope to be able to partner in that way. We also already have interest, and we've been negotiating as well with some of our current industry as well as up and coming industry that'll be in Cameron Parish soon. And both of those entities are very interested in partnering with the Lower Cameron Hospital Service District as well as Lake Charles Memorial to serve in the capacities that they need very particular services. So we hope that we'll also be adding that new level of service in the hospital.
Any more questions?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Steph.
And Mr. Joe, just to elaborate a little bit further, while we are working directly with the Stephanie and the hospital board to provide health unit services in conjunction with them, we're also looking at providing it at all the communities throughout the parish. So we're working on partnerships in Johnson Bayou, Hackberry, Grand Lake, and even Klondike Lowry, trying to identify parish assets where we can designate office hours for our health services, and they will do a roving throughout. They'll keep a calendar and they'll have designated hours in every community for each month. They've already experimented a little bit with the blood pressure checks and doing vaccinations. They've been doing that at the hospitals. Unfortunately, they can't use the hospital as a permanent location because there's just not room. So we are working directly with Dr. Kavanaugh and Region 5, identifying those spaces. So everyone will be served by the health unit.
moving forward.
Good deal, good deal. All right, number 7 is Katie, waterworks consolidation update.
Okay, so this has been, I feel like, 2 years maybe in the making, maybe 3 years, but we're finally getting to identify certain milestones that we've accomplished. So the first thing, back 2 years ago, we had the LDH reach out to us. They were concerned about the Cameron Creel and Grand Chenier systems. They were wanting us to consolidate them into one system. They actually were offering grants if we decided to apply for those. So we met with Cameron Creel, Grand Chenier separately, their boards, talked to them about considering consolidating into one operating system. And it just so happened by circumstance that the Water Sector Commission was developed by the state of Louisiana. They had an influx of ARP funds. That's a lot of this COVID money that came through the pipeline. They gave it to the state of Louisiana. State of Louisiana said, we're going to develop this Water Sector Commission, and they're going to give grants to local communities to improve water and sewage. So we had the opportunity to apply for a competitive grant to consolidate Cameron Creel and Grand Chenier into one operating system. We actually received the grant, $15 million grant to consolidate. So we went back to these water districts and told them, look, we have the money identified, you still want to move forward. They all voted, yes, they do. So we submitted all the paperwork. In the meantime, it was supposed to have a 25% match requirement. And over about 9 months of meeting with the Water Sector Commission, Representative Boyack, he actually sits on the Water Sector Commission. We went back and forth with OCD. We were able to attain a exemption for that waiver. So we are getting $15 million, and there's no local match required. We're one of the few water districts in the state that were able to do this. So moving forward, we have the money in place, we have the interest. Now we had to just let it play through the statutes. It was complicated. Cameron had, they were combined with wastewater, and that was protected through the state. So this last session, Representative Boyack presented a bill to separate it. It was approved in effective August. So now that we have Cameron Waterworks and Cameron Sewer, completely separate entities, we're able to, as the jury, consolidate Cameron Creel Grand Chenier Water into one South Cameron Consolidated Water District 1. So that's what you're going to see on the agenda today, is to start that advertisement, consolidating it. Changing, it's an ordinance change. You'll accept comments. You'll have conduct a public hearing at the next meeting. And if you so choose to keep moving this project forward, we'll consolidate Cameron Creel, Grand Chenier Water, and the Cameron Sewer Board will stay exactly like it is. You'll have to reappoint their members. It's only going to be the community of Cameron. The sewer, I think it ends about the Y. So it will operate the way it's always operated. It will have its own board and governing, but this new consolidated board would govern all the water districts, and it would operate just like your South Cameron Fire Consolidation does. They'll appoint board members from all 3 communities, and they will begin the process of consolidating this water system into one. The only thing we're waiting on construction-wise is our core permit. We already have our state permit. So as soon as we can finish the consolidation and get our core permit, we're able to come to you and ask for permission to advertise. But again, it's 100% funded, and this is something that I'm very proud of the water districts for doing. You know, this is going to give them the opportunity for generational change. They are going to have $15 million to invest into water infrastructure, and it should last them for the next 30 years.
What is this takes a vote of the people?
No, sir.
So it's
Not to consolidate the districts. Now, if you choose to consolidate the taxing district, right now they'll have individual taxes just like they've always had, but this new board can vote to request the jury to call an in lieu of tax is what you would call it, just like the fire board did. And instead of collecting 3 different taxes and having to spend it within those geographical boundaries, you'd have an in lieu of tax on the ballot. You could do it as early as next March or April. If it passes, then their 3 individual taxes will be terminated, and the new tax will be collected. It works exactly like the fire district.
We have, all the, it's called a, mutual aid. All the lines are connected, except they were connected to Rita at the, Tim can correct me if not, or where, but, or Logan, at the, Oak Grove where the bridge was at right there. It used to be connected there. We all, Cameron Creel and Grand Sheriff Fire is all linked together. That way on our fire rating, we all can help each other. This way here, we could actually get good water from Grand Chenier, Little Chenier and all that, come to Cameron instead of that.
Is that the mandate, that has to be connected?
No, it's not. It was an option, but in order to receive the grant, it is mandated by the grant, but it's not mandated by the state.
Well, to consolidate districts, so you saying to consolidate fire district or consolidate water districts, they do not have to connect water?
No, for this particular project, it does, because the grant is contingent on consolidation of 3 separate systems into one. But, I think if they wanted to consolidate it and operate it as 3 separate systems, they could, but this particular grant requires it.
But what money is already in Grand Chenier will stay in Grand Chenier. What money is in Creel will stay in Creel. What money is in Cameron, that in those separate accounts. Once it's pulled together, you still have to spend, I think, in each district. And
So how does this, benefit public?
It benefits Cameron, Creel, and Grand Chenier because they're gonna be operating as one system. They'll have, more tax funds combined to hire additional people if they.
So if you
don't
can't
change.
spend the money outside the tax district, how does this benefit
Well, hey,
operating?
we're not meeting, what is it, Grand Chenier?
Well, so
you're
there's,
basically
without
gonna
getting
cut down
too
on the
technical.
crew size?
Sir?
So basically, you're gonna have one operating crew,
Yes,
so that's the same as they're gonna say?
yes.
Well, the thing is,
I just want
They will-
to know,
So it
Nobody's
will
losing no
eventually
job.
save money, but it's a way to, introduce a new system that's supposed to be more efficient and have less long-term maintenance. So they're always changing all of these, rules, and our engineer is actually, I saw him in the back, I don't wanna put you on the spot, Mitch, but if you have technical questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them, but.
so my questions I have asked of me is, so when the LNG in Cameron starts putting out money to these water districts, is that LNG money gonna be allowed to be spent outside of that district?
No,
Till we combine the tax district.
whatever, right, if they combine the 3, then yes.
So this
But
is
if they
not-
don't, it would stay just in the Cameron tax.
Nothing to do with tax money.
So what you're telling me is that you do not have to have, connected water lines to have a joint consolidated district?
no, they're gonna be connected.
So we're,
But do you have to have?
No, this project you do.
for this you do.
Yes, you do, but if you had another project
You could,
to consolidate,
Yes.
you wouldn't, do you have to have,
no, it would be 2 water systems under one board.
okay, that's a good answer. And in order to utilize funds generated from the LNG here in Cameron to other parts of the parish, it would have to be ratified by the people and a vote to consolidate
Yes,
that,
yes, sir.
the taxes.
Yes, sir, through an election.
So it could be included into the Grand Lake system too, right?
If that's what the jury decides.
You talking about like things,
If you wanted to consolidate the east side of the Calcasieu River and include Grand Lake into that consolidated taxing district, it could, there's no restrictions that it could.
you're not getting money for a long time, because you have to include the west side.
Scott, I'm just asking questions.
There's gonna be
I
a law
understand
for
about
original
money.
pays and money.
No, there's no, just to answer,
One day
there's no
they will.
limitation.
Right.
One day it will.
But
and
you would have
we're
one
parish,
consolidated
and people
board.
don't seem to understand that. We're
We
one
go to-
parish, and we would love to, for these taxing districts to combine in order to fund the whole parish instead of just certain districts.
we'd have to go to Baton Rouge with, if we wanted to consolidate taxing district, get them to approve it, then come back and put it and vote in front of the people.
Not taxing districts. That's well within the authority to call an election. The jury can vote to call the election. The
So you
people
don't
will
have to
decide.
go- You don't even have.
The only reason why we went to Baton Rouge is because the wastewater is statutorily protected.
Okay.
And the legislator had to take sewer out.
But if we wanted to say, one day, say, we've been talking about this, about a levy protection system for the whole parish. If we wanted to do a parish-wide levy protection system tax, burn tax, whatever, we could do something parish-wide and include all LNG plants.
Yes.
All businesses. We could do something like that.
Our goal as jury is to make sure that we look out for the whole parish, not just, certain districts, and find ways to, better utilize monies that's gonna come into the parish in the future throughout the whole parish, instead of just limited areas.
So just to be clear, because we talk a lot about hypothetical situations, you as a jury can define your own boundaries of your districts. You can create water districts, you can eliminate water districts, and you determine their geographical boundary. You can call an election to fund it, but only the people can vote yes or no.
Yeah.
But that's where it ends. But you can create as many
But
districts.
you don't have to have even legislation to do that.
Not water, no sir.
Okay.
Actually, what kind of brought all this up was Creole and Grand Chenier, we have been out of compliance, I mean, for,
Yes, that's why LPH had requested it.
we have been out of compliance as far as meeting health specs for years. Combining all three together.
I just think me politicking, I just think people have mixed emotions on what was going on in this lower Cameron consolidated effort. And everybody was, well, not everybody, but there was some people claiming that the LNGs is gonna be tied into all that system, and I said to myself, no, that had to be a vote of that. People would have to vote for that.
Yes.
And so I wanted to make sure it was clear on how this all works.
Well,
That's the reason for my question.
Yeah.
No,
We were out of compliance, we've been out of compliance in Creole and Grand Chenier for,
yeah, I mean,
and this would help us get back in compliance.
you sort of kind of like Grand Lake, you didn't have no industry.
We don't have nothing around Creole, tank shore, you know.
But just to kind of, put things in perspective, Cameron Creole Grand Cheniere's, about the same amount of customers and service area is like Grand Lake. And so we feel like it's beneficial to these districts because instead of operating separately, now they operate as one unit. They can cover for each other. They're one's able to go get training while someone's back running the system. Each
No one
system
loses
only
out.
had one superintendent and one secretary. This way, it's more of a collaborative effort, and it makes things a little bit more manageable.
And some people may say it'd be better just to consolidate the whole east side. Some people may say that. I've been told that. So I'm just putting that out.
Okay.
So I do have one question on the consolidate, not the consolidation, but at the end of the day, what's the $15 million grant? What's it allocated for? What does it pay for?
It is to tie the three systems into one operating system. So they're gonna build some, above ground storage tanks. They're gonna, upgrade a lot of the distribution lines. I think they're moving from, Mitch, please help me out. They're moving from the way they treat it to, they're changing their treatment system.
Might wanna come talk maybe, bitches.
I mean, the reason I'm asking is if you're consolidating, you got three separate millage taxes right now, rates. Are you combining all three and gonna drop the millage rate to help the people?
Let me interject. Generally speaking, you decide the geographical districts. Whether you consolidate, not consolidate, 1 district, 20 districts, you decide. When it comes to a tax matter, the public decides. Okay? So that's as simple as that. You decide to put a tax matter on the ballot, the public votes on whether to consolidate those tax districts.
But I'm talking about millages.
That's what that is, millage is tax, yes.
But we're in control of the millage rates, right?
Your board, well, okay. The millage is in the proposition.
Right,
A board can levy up to that millage,
right.
okay? They don't have to, but they can roll it up and down, but that's their max.
So you're not combining these three with this consolidation at all?
Okay,
Not yet.
not yet. That has to go to a vote, to the public. It's a tax issue. Gotta go to the public. They gotta vote on the tax.
That's in the works.
What?
That's still in the works.
That's still in the works. That's step two.
That's what I'm asking.
Step one is you consolidate the geographical districts, and that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Step two, consolidate the taxing districts, has to go to a vote. Public decides.
Right.
So is that clear to the air? Everybody understand?
Yeah, I was just looking to see if.
I want the public to understand.
I was just, was wondering if they were going to continue collecting three different millage
Yes,
rates.
until it changes. Until the public
So the
decides
public
different.
votes and says, we want one taxing district.
That's exactly right. And that's what will be on the ballot. Do you want to eliminate these three taxing districts and create one taxing district? Eliminate three villages and have one village.
That's all, that's what I was trying to get to the bottom of.
And to be more specific, then the sewer will also have to have its own millage.
Right, it's
Because
gonna
it's a
have
new board, it's a new district, it's separate from water. That was one of that's what Mr. Boryok did for us. That's what's taken us a little while, is we had to separate the sewer out of the water. Okay?
Is that gonna have to be a vote?
Yes,
For that?
that will be
They'll have to-
included.
They'll have to set a millage,
Yes, so the public will vote on eliminating the old millages and creating new millages in those new districts. We haven't gotten those numbers yet. What is it gonna take now that you have a bigger geographical area, all of South Cameron, will be one water district? So what's the millage that they need for the maintenance operation for that entire area, now that you have that entire assessed area? And the tax assessor will help us come up with some numbers, we're just not there yet. But we will have to present all that to the public. Again, the public will decide whether to eliminate the existing taxing districts and create a new taxing district with a particular millage.
And the public being this taxing
This
district.
district,
only,
yes.
Not fair.
Only the geographical areas affected by
Yes.
yes.
unless we design
Well, yes.
down the road.
Again, you can decide the geographical area, you can have one parish-wide water district, but only the public can decide how the taxing will take effect.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
Any more questions on that? No. All right. All right, we'll move on to number 8. It's you again, Katie, administrator's update.
Okay, so before we get into, the project updates, we did have a few administrative changes. Miles Abear, who has served as our chief building code official and our floodplain administrator for the last 30 plus years, did officially retire. Friday was his last day. So we have in the audience with us today the two new people who are going to serve in that capacity. The first position was the chief building code official, and Randy Thomas. If you could stand, Randy. Stand up, Randy. Come on, everybody.
We don't know who you are.
He is our chief building code official. A lot of people from the public know him. He's been the inspector for probably 20 plus years, but he will serve now as your chief building code official. The second thing was our floodplain administrator. We had someone in the permitting department that is a certified floodplain manager. Her name is Robin Morales. And if you could stand, Miss Robin. She will serve as our floodplain administrator. She and Randy will work hand in hand to issue all of the permits, just like Miles did in the permitting department when both titles were under his purview. And just to be clear to the public and to the juries, Kara Steele is our coastal zone administrator, and she has taken her department and she is evolved into coastal affairs, and she will still serve the residents and the jury for all coastal related matters, no matter what it is. So there's Kara, which we did that a few months ago. Want to stand up and wave, Kara? So moving forward, I'm sorry I was not here last month. I intended to give you guys an update, but I had something I really had to attend. But at least it gave me time to incorporate a little more details into my PowerPoint. So if you just bear with me. Can everyone see? Can y'all see it, or any move the TV? Okay, so we've been getting a lot of questions about our insurance. You know, what's the update? We have a insurance litigation has been ongoing. The firm that is representing us has been able to settle a $4.2 million in additional claims. Now, this does not include our major property policy, which is pretty much every building in the square and every major building throughout the parish. So far, $4.2 million is mainly ambulance districts, Cameron Rec, and our fire stations. I think this is probably going to be litigated for another year or two, but we will keep you updated as we have updates made available to us. But right now, it's just making its way through court. Just to put things in perspective, we received $19.2 million in total of insurance, but we recovered for $87.8 million. Between flood and our wind policy, we had $87.8 million worth of coverage, and to date, we've only received $19.2 million. So we've been working on a very strict budget, making all of these repairs. We are still conducting research on the steps that we're going to take to try to self-insure. I'm not really aware of anyone that does it. We don't even know if it's legal in the state of Louisiana. It might require legislation. Our DA is working on conducting that research and getting some answers, and we hope to bring something to you guys, you know, in the next few months on, you know, we'll have steps laid out on what we need to do. But we are seriously considering a self-insurance program, same way we self-insure ourselves for workers' comp. I did put in a request for the new insurance commissioner to schedule a meeting. He may not be able to come to a police jury meeting, but I am going to get a date from him to at least meet with staff and some jurors if he can't come to a public meeting. So we have the opportunity to hear what his ideas are on for insurance reform and see if he'll be supportive of us pursuing a self-insurance program. The only other thing that we've really been doing, we've been following, we are a party to the Risk Rating 2.0 lawsuit. There is a hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. I put the address up there, the District Court, Eastern District of Louisiana, courtroom seat 551. It's in New Orleans. They'll have their first hearing on a preliminary injunction to pretty much take Risk Rating 2.0 completely out, and the flood insurance companies would have to start grading their policy on the prior system that was in place, where you received benefits for your, you know, if you were elevated, you saw that credit. So that's tomorrow. Everyone's invited. Just call me if you need the address. We hadn't planned on sending anyone from this office, but we are going to be able to stay in touch with our lawyers. And our Attorney General, Jeff Landry, is the one that has filed the lawsuit. Do we have any questions on insurance before we move forward? I knew you did, Mr. Sonny.
On the self-insured part, are we talking about parish-wide or just for public buildings?
Starting with
Public building. Okay. Are we doing any investigation on having a insurance company, at this point in time, sort of like, they have for citizens? Something where we can be self-insured, for homeowners in the parish. Are we checking on that?
We have not. That would definitely require legislation. First,
That's fine.
That
but what?
would have to come, I mean, we've been talking about it. Later on, after we would say the parish-wide, we'll be getting.
We're gonna start with self-insuring public buildings. Let's start there.
And the reason I'm asking that question is we don't do something with this insurance, we won't have it parish to take care of. Because people are getting hit with humongous bills and they can't handle it, and we have to do our part if we can. We have to explore every avenue. So
if we haven't been checking on that, I'm wondering if anybody else has done that, and I know the state's done it. Has anybody, any other parish or any other entity, any other city done that in the state?
No,
You gotta have
We can think outside the box, and we can.
we can think outside the box.
Okay,
You can start if you want, you got some extra money?
I'm working on it.
That would be, once these, well, depending on these LNGs later on, when they start paying, you know, big money, to do something like that. You know, parish wide,
Big companies, they go bankrupt.
you know.
State takes all of it.
Well,
But-
just wanna make sure that we're exploring all avenues.
It's definitely on our radar. We're working through it.
I just wanna say something, you know, while we're talking about that insurance and parish wide and all that, Lee, I am for eventually us doing some parish wide drainage and, whatever we need to do for everybody to have all that. Because one day there's gonna be so much money coming into Cameron Parish that we need to distribute all over the whole parish.
We gotta find avenues of ways to do that.
Right.
I mean, we're one big parish and it's just
I'm
not.
with you on that,
it's-
there's
it's not-
so much money, we're gonna have to have ways to do it. Things to
And
do
it's
it.
now is the time to start thinking about that.
If we don't consolidate, we won't have all that big money, 'cause they're gonna.
Well, we definitely don't wanna get like, we don't go down the wrong road and
Right.
they start protesting.
No, we wanna take care of everything and everybody.
Okay, Katie, go ahead. Let's get back to what we was doing.
We can't see what you're doing, and now we see something.
Okay, so, this is a slide that I showed a few months ago on my prior update. I won't go through all of it, but, basically, in the last 3 years, we've received over $98.5 million in grant funds. Some of it's federal, some of it's one-time, ARPA funds, some of it is annual through the legislator, which is your LGAP and CWIF funds. Some of it's just disaster, CDBG funds, but we are managing your staff $98.5 million worth of grant funds currently. So to FEMA, where are we with FEMA? To date, we have about $38.3 million in federal obligations for police, jury, governed funds. We have 4.8 still pending. Pending means they owe it to us, they know they owe it to us, we just haven't received it yet. The other entities, which are your ancillary districts, your water districts, your drainage boards, your rec districts, they're obligated at $9 million currently, and they have $677,000 pending.
So
Now-
that must have come since last month, because last month it was like 10 or 11 million
Where?
outstanding from.
Oh, from a few months ago? Yes, yes. So, we do have some priority PWs that are still going through the approval process. One's Grand Lake Rec. I had a verbal commitment that we were gonna get the obligation we needed, which was to tear down the original one and build a brand new one. We also have a donor project where there were some buildings that we decided not to replace, that we were gonna use those funds to help fund our Grand Lake Fire and Dispatch. Unfortunately, everything is stalled right now. FEMA has issued something they call immediate needs funding. It was effective 8/30, and so FEMA, while they're still processing PWs and they still will approve applications, you will not get the obligation, which means you can't get the money. We're hoping that at the end of September, maybe October, they'll be funded, but as of right now, FEMA is saying that they don't have the funding to obligate any PWs unless it is for life-saving or life-sustaining activities. This
Talking with our,
federal delegation,
yeah,
yes, so, I know,
is that gonna be part of this next batch of funding, budget funding for the government's doing?
yes, their fiscal year ends 9/30, so, usually what happens is FEMA says they can't issue any more PWs, they're broke, federal government, gives them a new allocation, but as of right now, all PWs are paused, which is, very discouraging, because it's been 3 years. I had verbals on the PWs that we were waiting for. We knew they were coming through, we were waiting on them any day, and then effective 8/30, they paused everything. They call it indefinitely. We suspect it's till the end of September, but it could drag on, we don't know. It's also affects our hazard mitigation applications. So, reconstruction and elevation, our Kings Bayou project, our planning grant to do our levee system, all of those applications are also paused. We did receive notification that our reconstruction grant was funded, but we had to resubmit it because in the interim, FEMA allocated, they changed their disaster cover from 90-10 to 100%. So the good news is all of our hazard mitigation projects are gonna be funded at 100%. The bad news is it's gonna slow things down even more because every application that we had submitted was for the 90-10. So they're gonna have to reprocess every application for the 100%. We've proactively submitted our request. Mr. DuPont's gonna sign some of the paperwork today. It will be submitted. It's gonna be uploaded into their portal. So as soon as FEMA's funded, they'll already have our requests to revise our applications. But right now, guys, it's just something that's, it's politics at the federal government level, and we will definitely use our congressional counterparts to put pressure on FEMA, make sure that they get funded, but right now, there's just a lot of hurry up and wait going on when it comes to FEMA.
Yep.
Yes.
Quick question, did they give you any idea of how long this would be in this pause phase?
They do not say, just says pause, pause period. But typically, when the new fiscal year, they get a new budget and then they remove that pause, they lift it. But as of right now, you know,
With you saying this, everything's paused, is our EOC Community Center paused right now?
nope, that's different funding.
Okay.
FEMA just requested another, I don't know how many billions of dollars from
Yes.
the feds. It's not looking like they're talking too well right now.
Now, what you can do, as a jury, what you can do is, if you get the application approved, you can take a leap of faith and just fund the project. And then when they get the obligation, you'll get reimbursed. But I just don't know how long this could go, you know. It might be a few years, it might be a few months, but we really don't know. But those,
Didn't they put a stall, they froze the new PWs, they got money that's trying to use up what they have to pay what they have outstanding? That's what I understood.
no, so if you have the obligation, they're still processing your PWs and paying you. It's just nothing new after August 30th will be obligated.
Right.
Unless FEMA deems it as a life-saving or life-sustaining PW, which is usually like your emergency recovery PWs. But we've closed all of our emergency PWs and we are working on permanent repairs right now.
So all that's on hold?
It's on hold for now. I hope next month I can tell you that it's been lifted, but that's where we are right now. They call it an INF. So I thought it'd be, you know, in retrospect, maybe this isn't a good idea because it just makes everyone sad about Hurricane Laura and Rita, but I thought maybe it'd be good for us to compare where we are 3 years after Laura versus where we were 3 years after Rita. Just to kind of give you as a jury some perspective and our public some perspective. So after Hurricane Rita, 3 years later, we had already received our CEA and our obligation was $29.6 million. As it stands today, Hurricane Laura 3 years later, we still don't have a CEA. They're telling us we're gonna get 11.4 million. So we're getting half the money and we still don't have it compared to where we were with Rita. And that's just the federal government. It took them a very long time to finally allocate the funding for CDBG. And I really think the only reason why we got that allocation is because Hurricane Ida happened a year later. Disaster hazard mitigation projects, we had received 11.9 million at 100%. For Hurricane Rita, we had one 3 years later in October. And then another project was approved in 2009, and our last project actually wasn't approved until 2012. As it stands today, we got similar hazard mitigation funding, 11.8 million. We did have one project obligated, which was our reconstruction grant, but it was, again, it was obligated at 90/10. We resubmitted it to get that full 100%. But it is funded at 100%. So disaster hazard mitigation's, pretty comparable. For PWs, Hurricane Rita was funded at 100%, believe it or not. Our Hurricane Laura is only funded at 90%, most of our permanent repairs. Only a certain amount of days, 45 days, is funded at 100%. Everything else after that is only funded at 90%. So we're gonna have to invest a lot more of our local funds to implement these project worksheets. Now, we are processing our PWs a little differently this time. After Rita, it was the first time FEMA came in, they wrote PWs for everything that was destroyed, and they wrote it and they said, we're gonna give you money to put it back exactly like it was. We took the money, we built everything, and then years later through closeout, realized that we did a lot of things that we weren't actually funded to do. So over the last 10 years, we have repaid $6.7 million back to FEMA. Fortunately, we had some of our surplus funds that we've dedicated every year out of our budget to repay us. So at the time that Laura had made landfall, we didn't owe any money at the time. If we would have, they would have halted all of our Laura funds until we repaid it. So this time, we approached it a little bit differently. If it's a permanent repair, or if it's for Grand Lake Rec, for example, we want that, that determination, that 50% determination, and build a new one. But instead of just going and doing it, and then maybe having to repay all the funds later, we're getting our obligations first, then we're moving forward.
What happened with Rita? It was done, after Rita, it was done without getting the,
Well,
have to come back and get all this money back.
right, because what FEMA does is they write a PW, and they say it's an eligible activity, but if you make any sort of improvement that they consider an improvement, which means if you had carpet, then you should have put carpet. And a lot of times they made improvements, instead of putting carpet, they put tile floors, or maybe they built a building that wasn't deemed 50% damaged, and we tore it down and built a brand new one, and they're telling us that we should have just repaired what was there. There's a lot of different reasons why FEMA activities are deemed ineligible, but it come at a $6.7 million price tag. Yes.
I just have a problem with that, because we have FEMA working with us, we have contractors we pay that are going over this stuff at the same time. How does this get by us that we've covered all our bases, and it seems like we're still getting that?
Because FEMA works at different levels. The person writing the PW isn't the same person closing the PW. They don't know what the person closing the PW looks for. They don't know the closeout process. So I think that's kind of what happened. This first person's telling you, sure, you can do it, not even knowing what the last person can do. And it just,
It's gonna cost you a bunch.
yeah. So because we had been repaying so much money back over the years, I said we did a different approach this year. So while, the FEMA money wasn't just flowing in like Rita, it was intentional. We wanted to make sure that we were funding all of our projects, we could afford it. And if FEMA funds it, we consider that long out. We can take that money and put it in an investment account and let it accrue interest and call it recovery money. Everything you see today has been funded without FEMA. FEMA's reimbursed us for a lot, but we did it first without FEMA. With the exception of with the exception of the Grand Lake Rec one, which we knew would be tricky, the Grand Lake Fire Station, which we knew was going to be tricky. We weren't sure if we'd get it obligated or not. But the rest of it, we were funding that with our own funds.
And it did get obligated, you said?
They're telling me verbally that it's going to be obligated, but I didn't have it in writing.
Just wait and get it in writing.
That's what I was waiting for.
Boy, you can't trust FEMA. Nope.
And then just staffing is completely different. After Rita, you had an economic development department. You had 4 people working in economic development, and you had 1 full-time employee that was working on grant management. You don't have that this time. We have no economic development department. They were unfunded by the jury years ago, and we lost that full-time grant management person. So you're processing similar funds on the same timeline with less people. So I think you should appreciate your staff because they're saving you about $500,000 a year by doing it with less people.
Saving the taxpayers $500,000.
Yes, sir. We
Thank
try.
y'all.
Actually, more than that.
That's what y'all's job is to do, is to save the taxpayers' money.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
We're doing our
Good job.
best.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Don't look so unhappy, Kayla, it's okay.
When the staff says they wear many hats, they are not exaggerating, they do. So recovery project update, we'll just kind of run through it. You know, I have the cost of where we are. Again, this is all funded out of either our surplus funds or insurance funds. We did finish the Grand Lake Fire Station. It's been placed back in service, so the waterworks can start using it again for their office in Grand Chenier if they choose to, if the road crew wants to use it. But it is available to the community. Grand Chenier Fire Station, yes. The only barn that is still under construction is the Grand Lake barn, which is a completely new rebuild, which you funded. We did get the PW obligation that's going to help, but you had allocated your own surplus dollars to build it. It's under construction right now. And then the Cameron maintenance barn is also under construction. We are bidding, we fixed the roof. We did a lot of stuff in-house with insurance money, but we did have to bid out the electrical. So those bids are due, I put the date up there, October 9th. And at your October 11th meeting, you should be able to accept bids if they're competitive. We are trying to get it ready for the livestock show. That is the goal. OEP Pavilion's under contract, Murray's still under contract. Grand Chenier Rec, they have construction in progress. Cameron Rec still has their construction in progress. They're not ready yet. Courthouse and jail are both under contract. Repairs are being made. And then the South Cameron Fire Garages, this is something that that consolidated board did differently. Instead of going and replacing every single fire station they had throughout the parish, they chose some locations. They tore down some of them that were only in Cameron, Creo, Grand Chenier, and they're building new little garages that'll extend their coverage area, help with their rating.
Well, as long as they make, Timmy has them where they meet, and Logan where they meet the criteria for that fire.
So
application.
they're gonna put one at Cameron Rec. They're gonna put one at Rockefeller, which they had one at Rockefeller before, and then they're gonna add one at Little Chenier. That way they can get the end of Little Chenier. So that's what they've been doing. If the project is not on here, then that means it's finished. It's been repaired. So all your ambulance buildings, all of your drainage board offices that were on the west side, rec centers, everything's been open. So I think we're in pretty good shape 3 years later. And just to, show you guys, while we are doing grant management with a smaller staff, we still are having great results. We've just concluded one of our site visits with GoStep, and I highlighted the positive part. It said your agency is doing a fantastic job with federal compliance. So I think the staff is doing a great job managing all of their roles, and I think they deserve a round of applause. It's very hard to do this, and the guy that did it even said, I don't know if this has ever happened, I don't have anything. They've never even written a letter like this before. So they were very satisfied with how we were running our accounting office. And so this is a grant that I wanted to make the public aware of. Mr. Kevin Savoy, I think he's still here. He's been attending these meetings, but there's this new LDWF Equipment Modernization Grant. You are eligible for $30,000 to restore for any commercial fishermen, vessel owners, seafood docks, processors, and charter captains. You can purchase the equipment, update, either purchase new or modernize your existing equipment. And it's to remediate impacts resulting from freshwater flooding from 2019. This is the link if you want to click on it and apply for the application. Or at the Seed Center, there is a group there that will help any fisherman submit their application. You just make an appointment. And if you go to our Facebook page, the meeting they had last week, which was informational, it was recorded and we've posted it to our Facebook page if you want to watch it, since you couldn't attend in person. Going to just our normal projects, which this isn't recovery related. These are just projects that we've been working on throughout the parish. We have our Marshall Street Inundation Project, designs at about 60%. And we did receive capital outlay grant funds for this. The first initial estimate's like $3.5 million to install the pumps. But when we finish design, we do have permitting. Then we will go out and apply for grants to hopefully fund this project. Kings Bayou Pump Station's also a project that communities wanted for a while. We've just been trying to identify funding sources. We did submit for the hazard mitigation grants. We have a permit active through 2026. We're thinking $1 million, but we're just going to wait on that hazard mitigation application to see if it's going to get approved to fund this. We'll come back to you guys before we do anything, though. And then the Mermentau, that permit's pending. You actually have a permit on your agenda today to approve. It's $25 million. We still are working on our hurricane protection firm. That project has not stalled. We're just trying to get the data together. CPRA is helping us. They're going to do a lot of preliminary modeling. They're working on that. We're hoping to have an update to you guys soon. And then just breakwaters and shoreline protection, we continue to receive surplus funds and put it toward those breakwaters. We're up to almost $20 million between restore and surplus funds. Gary's Landing boat launch, we're hoping to reopen it in November. It's under construction, so it'll be closed until it's finished. That budget was $150,000. And then the South Cameron Water Consolidation Project, I kind of gave you a pretty thorough overview of that. So, but still waiting on the permit for that. And then North Cameron EOC. So this is a project that is funded through capital outlay. We anticipate getting our final CEA to get the $2 million any day. It's been submitted. We're just waiting on the Office of Community Facility Planning to send us our CEA. But this is a rendering of what it's going to look like. It's built this way. It should sustain any hurricane force winds. This is kind of what the color scheme is going to look like. Of course, when we get into after we bid the project, we'll go through and pick everything, but they just, for rendering, they just wanted to show us what it could look like. So these are the color schemes that they're proposing, the architects. I'll give you a second to review. This is what the floor plan essentially looks like. It's a side-by-side comparison. But this right here, if you can see my mouse, this is the main flex area. So if the community had to use it for anything, this is the space they would utilize. If in the event we had a natural disaster and we needed somewhere to locate our governmental offices, this is the space they would use. We could set up petitions and tables, and we could house everyone in this square, we could house in this space. That's the plan. Back here is just, bathrooms, a break room. We did dedicate a space to our OEP office. They would have a media room where they could go sit, any interviews that needed to be conducted, any press conferences. That would be the dedicated space where it's quiet. There's a conference room where the jury could meet in the event with their OEP director and make decisions on evacuations and recovery.
Do you have a room in there kind of like, was it Louisiana Radio, Perry Vincent has to be able to ride out a hurricane out in?
The whole building is supposed to.
So the whole building's supposed to withstand it?
Yes. But we are going to reinforce one section of it, which is going to be it's over here, it's kind of hard to see. But it is supposed to be reinforced for that Cat 5 type storm. But it's just a little closet type area.
Miss Susan to store her machines?
No, so,
Okay.
yes, the reason why we did not do that is because if it's funded with capital outlay funds, then you can't generate any type of revenue off of it. And if she was gonna store it and pay it, we wouldn't be able to accept these payments.
Right.
So she's gonna leave them where they are, and, this will be, free of use to the community.
Can you put that on the webpage so people can look at it, you know, what we getting ready to do up there in Grand Lake with this multi-purpose building?
Sure.
You know, where they can go on the page and look and see what it looks like.
I'll ask the question.
Okay. I'll take it. Again, that's just if you wanna look at what the lighting's gonna look like, in the bathroom and in the flex space, in the break room. If you're just curious, again, none of these decisions have been made, this is just to kinda give everyone an idea of what it could look like. This is what it looks like, parking. So, this isn't the whole parking lot, but I wanted to show you, this is sort of like a little courtyard area for people to just sit, we'll have benches and everything. You go in right here, this is the flex space, and then this is where all your bathrooms and all your meeting space is.
Is that the coverage?
Yes, no, this is the indoor, oh, this part's
No,
gonna.
the little piece in the front where you saw.
I think so, but I'll get back to you. You know, we have, it will be elevated, but you won't notice it, we're not gonna have stairs, it'll just ramp up. We'll have to redo the entire parking lot, and if you guys.
Where's the road at in reference to this, that picture?
Right here. So if you and the public can remember, over here is where the ambulance station was and the council on aging building. The ambulance station was tore down, they built further down the road, they wanted to get out of this space. We moved the council on aging building back here on their property, so they are 100%.
So that building's almost in the same place as the other community building, right?
Yes.
Just a little further back.
It's gonna be a little further back, so here's council on aging right here, and we moved their building. We freed up this, you'll have one entrance. This is the parking lot, it's about 75 car parking. This is the building, and then back here is the water tower.
And the future plans for the fire stations right there.
This open area is future plans for the fire station. You can see where the dedicated parking for the fire trucks start. And so what they're planning on doing is fire trucks can come like this if you follow my mouse, and they can pull in, and then they'll be able to exit directly on Highway 384 in the event of emergency. So again, that's gonna be held up a little bit with our FEMA. So in the interim, we built that metal building fire garage right here. So they have a fire station for now, it's temporary, until we can get this one built. And that's all I have for you guys today. I talked enough.
And the dispatchers are still planning to be on top of the
They're-
fire station.
They're working on that. So they're gonna look at the cost of it. There's some stuff that dispatch is gonna have to work out, and the sheriff will have to work out. If they want to relocate dispatch 24, like permanently, they may have to build a tower that's gonna cost about $500,000 at least or more. I'm not sure if the sheriff wants to invest that kind of dollars in that, but at the very least, it'll be a place for dispatch to locate temporarily in the event of disaster, where they could just move their consoles into there and they could operate out of there after a hurricane. So, but that's just gonna be a decision that the sheriff's gonna have to make coming up in the near future.
Any questions? Katie?
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, you finished, Katie?
Yes, sir.
Kinda like the booyah there. Number 9, Royal Engineering, recovery update.
Okay, and so our CDBG funding that we received, we just hired Royal Engineering to administer those funds, and they're gonna just introduce themselves and kinda give you just a little update on, what we could see moving forward for these.
Yeah, so thanks. We're just getting started, so this is more just like, hey, this is where we are, this is where we're going, so you guys understand. To date, you received roughly $13 million in CDBG funding, separated into two programs. One is your infrastructure program, one is your neighborhood revitalization program. We met with staff last week, and started to make a list of projects and put a plan together. One thing we did want to make you guys aware of is the program requires you to do a citizen engagement plan at least one public meeting. You do two. Katie, I'm sure is going to be working with you guys to identify maybe doing one in conjunction with the October jury meeting, either before or after, if y'all wanted to do one in the evening. So we're working through that. That's one of the first steps. We're expected to receive the CEA from the state any moment now. They've had it since June, and we can't actually access the dollars until we have that document. But in the interim, we're starting to get those plans together. And over the next, once we get the CEA, you got a 90-day clock to submit your plan. And once we get the list of projects and we make sure that they're all eligible and they meet the grant funding, it'll go to staff and go to you guys, and you guys get to pick which projects you want to do. Hopefully, I'm optimistic that they're going to add more money to this program. They're saying they're going to do that right now. And then you got a whole new fresh batch of people in Baton Rouge come January, and they got a lot of money to spend too. So this is just the start, what's hopefully a very successful program. I didn't know if you wanted to give a little bit of update on Jeff Davis Electric, so Christie's here too if you guys have questions.
Yes, we do.
What's that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good morning. So our biggest update is that we plan to start construction next month in October. So we're thinking substations is planned to start October, and that will be at the Charlie substation. And then from there, we'll move on to the transmission line, which will start November, and that will be at the river crossings. It's a couple-week delay. Part of that was on permitting. We submitted the 106 consultation. We actually prepare it, but then FEMA is in charge of issuing it, and that goes to SHPO and some of the Indian tribes, and they requested additional time. We expect that the ending of the commenting period will be September 20th, and then that puts us right on schedule for construction to start in October. And all the demolition of the existing substations has been completed. Materials are on site and continuing to come in at both contractors' lay-down yards right there by Chenault. So we're pretty good on schedule.
And schedule is still June of 2025.
Yes, that has not changed.
Everything is going to be energized. Maybe a little bit work happening going from Highly Beach North to the new substation. In Hackberry, we'll call it Crown Substation. But the 230 will be fully energized, and all the generators will be going by June of 2025, if not earlier.
Yeah, any remaining work will only be wrecking and removal.
We see a lot of survey stakes. Is that your survey stakes?
Yep, those are poles.
Now, but to me, they're in line with the distribution lines.
It's an offset stake, right? So it's only is positioned that way. Some of them may be offset 25, 30 feet. But some of the poles are going to be worked hot. In other words, they're going to actually drive the transmission poles in line with the distribution and leave the distribution hot. And the distribution is going to be elevated and underbuilt on the transmission structures. They only have to make one pass that way.
You're waiting to see, all excited.
Yeah, and just on your immediate need funding from FEMA, it's not affecting us because we have a lot of obligations in. So it's not, the money's there to build this.
So we're not on pause?
We are not on pause.
Not on pause. Good, good.
Part of it is the obligations are already in place, so it's call it a $400 million project, and almost all the money's in place, and any remaining obligations, they're considering life and safety, because FEMA's paying for the generators 100%, so they're as incentivized to get this line built as everybody else is.
I think I'm paying for the gas on the generator. I'm not paying when they ain't 100%.
On your bill, yeah, you're still getting a fuel bill.
A big one.
Yeah, and honestly, the generators have nothing to do with that. So this calculation dictated by the Public Service Commission that the fuel is spread out on every meter in the system, regardless of whether or not you pull in the power off of it or not. Because we've been going back and forth with Steve. It's been hot, the meter's been spinning hard too.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Y'all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, before you move on, you touched on the citizen participation, so I guess what the jury needs to decide, are you good with just having one? Would you like to have some community meetings? We need to have input from the public on projects they would like to see. There is, can you tell them about the QR code?
Yeah, there's another option, that we can send out, either post to your website or to your social media, QRI code. It's one of those things where you hit it with your phone and it pulls up a survey, and you can have the public actually take a survey to talk about what interests they have, that projects that would qualify for this program. We do have to engage the public, or we could do it in actually public meetings. It's up to you guys. You don't have to decide today, but we need to decide pretty quickly because we need to get that. They require us to put together called a citizen engagement plan, and we have to submit that to the state, and they have to approve it, and once they approve it, we have to do it. So if we want to have a meeting in Johnson Bayou, and we tell them that, we got to have a meeting in
Are we
Johnson.
working from a list of projects already submitted, or are we just working with criteria for a project?
Criteria.
And you, when are we gonna find those criteria out? They're out there now?
They're already established,
Yep.
yes. That's part of the program.
You'll
So
give me a copy of it.
I can, so, I mean, I really like to hear your guys' opinions, because if we're gonna have in-person meetings, we need to go ahead and get those scheduled and advertised. If you guys are okay with having the public meeting at the October meeting, but then also having the surveys that we can send out to everyone in the community, we can do that as well.
Why can't you do them both?
It's up to you guys.
Can't say
I'm
send them
asking.
out a survey, and that way, with the dates of the meeting, the live meetings, if they'll show up.
Cause we do need to get these meetings scheduled fast. So you guys want community meetings?
What kind of projects do we keep talking about?
Well, so it's two batches, right? So on the infrastructure side, it could be anything from, breakwater, pump stations, right? Possibly even looking at, a combination of funding your Cameron Rec Center. We haven't teased all the criteria out, but those sit on the infrastructure side. On the community revitalization side, it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. We did a little bit of brainstorming with the staff on some things we could do. We need to do a little more work on that. We can send you guys the criteria to look at, but we were trying to get a list of just concept projects so you can look at and say, all right, well, what about this one? Because this makes sense. Give you a starting point to look at.
Yeah, and that's all I was wondering.
We just started, we had a meeting last week, so we just getting going.
Would it be something like move Jada Pier to, behind the Cameron Rec back there, access?
It's a good project.
Good project, it's just not gonna meet the criteria. That's what we were trying to do, is get you sort of even a sample list of projects that you know about that fit the criteria, to just narrow your focus a little bit.
All right, one last question on criteria. Is this limited on a funding ceiling, like 100,000, 200,000, or is it anything?
No, I mean, both programs right now, you have roughly about $6 million in each program. You could do it in one project, or you could do it as 100 projects.
So we'll get this list, together that we feel could be approved, and it doesn't mean that it 100% will be approved, but we feel confident, at least in presenting. And then we'll engage the community, and you can look at the projects, maybe you can, it might get you guys thinking of a different project that's similar. You know, or we can let the public vote on the projects that we've presented in the list, and just vote on what they'd like to see. But regardless, it has to be done fast. Like he said, once we get that CEA, we only have 90 days to do our application, and it's gonna take them at least probably 30 to do the application itself. So
At least.
we're talking, you know, in the next 4 weeks, we need to wrap it up.
We think we're gonna get to CA this month, and if 90 days, that puts us right in these final applications right during Christmas. So the quicker we can get going, the better.
So it's possible we can put it on rec board, you said? On rec board?
It's possible, we're looking at it.
What's
Not
the-
a rec center, a resiliency hub.
Resiliency hub, which would,
Whatever you wanna say.
Almost there, you almost got it done. You gotta get started before you can get finished.
yep, you have to put a little bit of lipstick on that pig, but we have to work.
There you go.
It's okay. They want red, purple, or blue.
That's right.
So, back to the question, we need to decide today, are we meeting in each community? Do you wanna have just, you know, one in Johnson Bayou, Hackberry, Grand Lake, South Cameron area? Are you good with just the surveys? What do you guys wanna do?
I say, so do a survey and have it next month.
Next month meeting over here, survey it,
Just
everybody.
advertise it well that there's gonna be a public meeting.
Okay.
If you have it here, just make sure it's well publicized. If you have to put little flyers out at all the
we can push the survey out beforehand, and maybe we'll have some feedback already before we actually have that.
Yeah. That'll work.
That's what we'll do, thank you.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Anything else? All right, go to number 10, post office in Grand Lake. I wanna put that on there to maybe get, I know Clay Higgins is assistants here with us all the time, and I know it's a federal thing, but we need to work on something to try to get us a zip code in Grand Lake. Our mail is so messed up, cause we go through Lake Charles, everything we get is Lake Charles. My driver's license got Lake Charles on it, and I don't wanna be affiliated with Lake Charles. I'm from Cameron Parish. And I just wanna, maybe we can get something out there and get working on that with Ryan or, you know, place in either Senator Kennedy or somebody, Cassidy, and get us to help to get us our own postal system in Grand Lake. I mean, there's small communities all over. Bell City got one, and I know before the storm, these people had this, but we need something in Grand Lake bad. I mean, the mail system is really messed up there where we're at.
Sweet Lake is with Bell City.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're all over. We're with Lake Charles, we're with Bell City. I mean, there's no reason they can't give us a post office. I mean, goodness.
You went to the wrong agent. Mine says Sweet Lake on it.
What?
My address.
No, mine got Lake Charles, but I made them put Grand Lake on my driver's license.
Yeah.
It's Lake Charles.
I saw that on the agenda, and we have a representative from Congressman Higgins' office that comes to our meeting all the time. Helps us every way she can, and Elizabeth McLaughlin is here, and so she has a little information she can provide to get us started. So Elizabeth?
All right, good.
Good morning, how are y'all?
Good morning.
So our office looked into this, and the U.S. Postal Service does have a boundary review process for zip codes. A private individual or a company cannot bring that request to the Postal Service. It has to be from a municipality or a community group. So the Cameron Parish Police Jury is the appropriate entity to make that request. It needs to be in writing. So our office will work with Tom to get that request going. Congressman Higgins is aware of this and will provide a letter of support to help move that process through. The Postal Service zip code system, you know, is designed for efficiency and just to streamline mail delivery, but they do recognize that there are changes in demographics and population shifts and so forth, and also recognize that the importance of municipal identity when they are reviewing the zip code request, for changes in zip codes. So we will work with Tom's office to get that going, and y'all would be the appropriate entity to make that request to the Postal Service.
All right, we'll do whatever we gotta do to get that done, because, well, we sure need some help with that.
We will help you.
All right, thank you so very much. All right, before we review the agenda, I think Scott got something he wants to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, if y'all don't mind. Somebody had something a while back, of course, everybody sees Facebook, and, our local fire department was taking care of a bunch of fires down here, and somebody responded to something about the cattle, if we had more cattle in the marshes and whatever down here, and we wouldn't have it was something pertaining to that, and they kind of called it the police jury, so I got to looking into it, and what it was, it went back to about 6 years ago on Shinya Purdue Road, where the cattlemen used to have the cattle used to roam the roads, and that goes way back to when people gave the right-of-ways years ago, as long as they had cattle boards and they were fit, and people could run their cattle on the highways. But anyway, about 6 years ago, the jury voted, like on Shinya Purdue Road, that 7 people voted to leave them, to take them off the highway, and about 200 had sent papers and letters in to leave it like it was. And since then, there's no more children living back there. I think one of the deals was the ambulance and the school bus. But the jury went with the 7 people instead of the 200 people back then, and went against the majority and had the cows for the property owners. The cattlemen had to try to fence the highway in. Since they did part of it, but they couldn't afford to do the rest of it. But anyway, since then there's really maybe a couple people left back there, and there's no kids. So I like to put this and advertise for a month, and then next month's meeting, take that Shinny Purdy Road and take that stop off of there. That way the cattle, they had to cut their herds in half because they couldn't afford the fencing, all that what they wanted to do, and they could start using that property again. And Mr. Butch, I think Butch was
I think it was a liability issue,
we still have other roads that still have stock on them.
Well, I think one of the reasons when we did change it, we changed it and you got 200 people that was for the cattle on the road but didn't live back there. The 7 or 8 or 10 people that lived back there didn't want the cattle on the road, so that's why we changed it to help them people out with the ambulance and the school bus and stuff. But if there's nobody back there anymore, just the 2 families, and we talked to them and they send in their letters and go from there. We put it up for a vote again.
I think, well, to abandon the road, there's no need for a public road.
No, we can't abandon Bears Road going to the back.
Why can't
back
you?
there?
If you don't have a public need.
There's people still go back. You got a graveyard back there, or graveyards back there, and
Well, you'd have a graveyard road.
so. But anyway, matter of fact, Mr. Butch, I think he was president of the Cattlemen Association.
Yeah, I was president of the Cattlemen Association, and we were for leaving the open range in place.
Yeah.
And it was voted down. I would be in favor of opening it back up.
They will have a public meeting, the people have a right to speak.
Come talk, yeah.
Anyway, that's what I want to mention to y'all, if y'all don't mind, to advertise.
Do you want to put it on the agenda?
Yeah. Yes, if I need to put it on the agenda to,
Authority to advertise.
yeah, or to advertise, yes.
Put that as an add-on. Okay.
Please advertise it,
Anything else?
so that people will know about it, because if you get up here and there's no voices.
Before you go to the review agenda, I got an announcement I want to make.
Yes, sir, go ahead. Scott, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just let everybody know, this weekend, on Saturday, we have beach cleanup. Pick a beach, whatever beach is gonna have people on, Rutherford Beach to all the way to, Mays Beach. But also let you know that after the trash collection is done, they're gonna have a release of some sea turtles on the beach at Mays Beach. It's gonna be a big event, I think the first time that I've heard of that happening. So if anybody wants to spend a day at the beach and come help us clean and see some sea turtles, come out Saturday. That's it.
All right, anybody got anything else? All right, let's review our agendas. Number 10, increase the master service agreement with Vincent Maker from 1.5 to 2.5 million. Is that?
So, Finster Maker has been our engineer of record for these breakwaters for all of our projects. They started with Gomeza. As we get additional funding, we have to increase their service agreement because we're adding, $8 million to the project, so their fee has to be increased, and that's all this is doing.
They ain't gonna give us that?
What?
In kind? They're not gonna do it in kind for us? Give us that?
No, they will not.
Engineer firms, they always want an extra dollar.
Well, yeah, we're adding $8 million for construction funds, so.
They got to bid for the first time. About all these change orders on this. Some's added, some's taken away. At the end of the day, where we at? We owe money? I know library got their own money.
Yes, they are gonna owe money, for library, but it is, owner elected. They're gonna, update some of the flooring, make it a little bit more resilient than what they currently have. And also with the lighting, they have some structural repairs that need to be done. That is not actually storm related, it's just eroding away from salt air. That takes care of the library. Now for the, courthouse and jail, let's see, I'm going.
14 and 15.
Courthouse and jail's got 6 change orders on it.
Yes, so the
library has.
the jail originally.
Courthouse and jail's on 14.
The library, they pay in for theirs, we pay for the courthouse and jail.
The jail change order for the lights is to replace all of the lights underneath the building, the park. None of that's been
So are
fixed.
they going to get a light that's gonna hold up?
I mean, they're getting what is required by building code.
So each light is gonna cost $1,000 each.
Yeah, so you either can accept the change order and the contractor can change it, or you can reject the change order and after the building's complete, you can go hire someone else to come in and replace it. Or you can just not replace the lights at all and it'll stay
Are
dark.
they working?
So that's the three options.
Are they shining now?
No, they were damaged. Yeah, they're
Or
all.
they need to be replaced?
They need to be fixed eventually. Do you want this contractor to fix it or do you wanna fix it after the fact?
The contractor's already there, I mean.
Our project manager,
Coming out that after the fact is what gets me.
right, okay, so, yes. Go ahead, Eric.
I hate change orders.
I agree. That's why I came today. I'm Garrett Forche with Forche May Architects. I did bring a representative from engineering and our lead architect on the team just to answer any of these questions because I completely understand how you feel about change orders.
I guess the main question is why we didn't catch this up front. It's been like that for years.
Yes, sir.
And all of a sudden,
$1,000 a piece.
Okay, the original damage assessment at each point that we went out there was quantified broke pictures. So that began in May of 2021. Since then, over roughly 10 site visits, additional lights were going out, some were being repaired. And we were monitoring that and communicating with the staff along the way till we were able to get to bidding. Regretfully, lighting fixtures aren't always just bulbs. Sometimes it's water intrusion, the water's got pretty high. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I did bring one in case we need to talk about it. However, right up until bidding, we did issue an addenda to capture the current snapshot at that particular time. Regretfully, more things have gone, either been tested as we required of the engineer, so you do have working lights and they don't just go out in 6 months. We require testing of each fixture. So that answers the continued damage explanation to some degree, or I can continue on. But the second question on, I think it was value placed. Good news is those current expensive light fixtures, they don't make them anymore. And we did not pick those light fixtures as Ms. Katie mentioned earlier in her presentation. FEMA is very particular about replace in kind. We try to follow that. We can get approval to vary in certain ways. The prison yard, for example, has very strict requirements on lights for safety reasons. I'll leave it at that. Having said that, we did find lights that match. It is not all the lights. It went from 10 to 15 out of 68 under the parking garage, and it's about 35 all in the prison yard. Okay, so about 100% in the prison yard need to be replaced. But the ones under the parking garage, it's roughly under 50%, and you can go see that there are some working. I just want to clarify that. What this change order is a quantification, but we made the contractor bid the most expensive fixture during bidding to lock in that value. That way there's no subjective conversations on how much is too much, right? If that was established, it was a bidded value, a unit price is what it's called. So that unit price has been retroactively implemented due to the testing, which you can see there's some light fixtures being taken down right now, and they're running tests and there's just wiring, again, not gonna get into the electrical design of it. Also, the change order does not include any additional time, no superintendent's fees, no general conditions, no additional equipment, and it's a per fixture, which was done, regretfully, the nuances of hurricane repair have been here before to speak on it, are hard to pin down to say the least. And with the staff, constant meetings, constant site visits with your building inspector, pre-construction walks, the whole works, some tested failure. It's up to you to decide to replace that quantity. So just, I wanted to clarify that. Hope I did. There was a couple of questions, but I do have some support staff.
How much are these lights? I'm like Curtis, how much are these lights versus the labor that's fixing to happen? Because you're already here. You guys are already here. So there's no extra mode, D-mode. Why are we charging so doggone much for lighting?
So the light fixtures are about $545 a piece for all the lights under the parking garage.
Okay.
The light fixtures in the steps in front of the jail are about $175 a piece, and the light fixtures in the flagpoles are about $150 a piece.
what's the warranty on these lights?
I do not know, the
5
general
years. We call
5
it
to
5
10 years.
5 years full warranty, unlimited, no matter what happens, storm come through, salt water.
That's right. So you're paying for the fixtures, with the change order, if you look at the information in your package, is the invoicing directly from the supplier. They're not charging any markup on the light fixtures. They are the fixtures that you had before. They are vapor tight, waterproof. They will last the salt water for the 5-year warranty at least. And we are paying a direct one-for-one what was damaged and is not working today. The lights that are working, we're not fooling with those, we're not replacing those. And then you have the labor included to replace the fixture. So you'll see a fixture price in the invoicing that's behind the change order, and then you'll see his labor price. He's not charging us for the equipment to get 15 feet in the air, because he already has that on site. So he's doing us a favor there, he's not charging any
Some
extra
lights
fees.
are 170 and
There are multiple types of lights.
some are 500.
Yes.
And it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to change a light, and our labor is like eating us up, crazy.
Well, these things are 15 feet in the air, and they're 15, 20
Takes
feet
about
apart.
a minute to get up there, a minute to get down.
There's labor involved in procurement as well.
And there's only 5 of them?
There are 115 of them. You had 10 in the base bid, so he's not charging you for the 10 that was included in his bid. So you have 115 non-working lights that he's replacing.
How many
10 were
total
already
lights is in
missing.
there? How many total lights is in there?
There are 78 in the parking area. There are 38 under the recreation yard where the prisoners are. And then there's 35 step lights, and there's 4 flagpole lights.
Is this, change order being covered under the funding?
It's all FEMA recoverable, it's all eligible.
I would like to add to with lighting fixture, and as time goes on, fixtures will continue to fail. So this is not the end of the road. The fixtures that are burning that have not been replaced are going to be a maintenance issue.
They're all counting.
So we did, at the start of this drive, try to put as much foresight into how many fixtures may be out at the time that the job actually started construction. So we put a contingency in there.
While not like previous generations, replace them all and then you're paying, like it's a, I just.
Our first assessment is to replace all the fixtures that were water damaged. FEMA just will not let you do that. If it's still burning.
Or you would be paying them back as the previous
So
presentation.
it's a moving target.
But we did make up to a dozen, this was in mid-2021, and then we were still making visits, this month. So, it didn't go unmonitored, it's just, it was never, the target never stopped moving, and now that they're being tested by a qualified professional, that we have an accurate quantity, and that's what we're presenting at this time. Which is not it. We're just trying to answer any questions.
Thank y'all. Any more questions, Mark? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The last change order on the agenda is for the courthouse. The clerk of court reviewed the work. She's in agreement. She wants to take out the work. They had initially bid on replacing the entire shelving system, and she felt like she would be satisfied with them just cleaning it. So it is actually for a credit.
Katie, the, permit that, we had tabled last month or the month before about the Creel watershed levy, any update on that?
They did call a meeting. When is it?
Yeah, we have a, Cameron Creel advisory meeting scheduled, let me see. Wednesday, the 27th at 10 o'clock
They're
here
gonna
in our
have
office.
clarification on who's gonna operate and control that after this meeting?
The meeting was called basically to talk about the current management plan of the
Where's that meeting at?
Here, Wednesday, the 27th at 10 a.m.
Right here?
Yes. And I'll send y'all an email.
Updated report next month?
That it? Y'all got any more questions? Katie, y'all got anything?
On other permits on items 7, F, that is the 80-acre pond permit. We had to resubmit because the permit was gonna be expiring next month. And they don't do an extension on an NDSI determination, so that's why it's back on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Ann?
One add-on, Mr. President, authority to advertise to change the livestock ordinance for Oklahoma.
All right, good deal. Anybody else? Everybody good? All right, meeting's adjourned.